Okay, actually, I'm gonna put on Vortex because this is gonna happen really fast, guys. Once Imani and Arrogance and Wrath start going, you're gonna see this health bar just melt away. What you can actually do, guys, with Decimus, if you're having trouble and you don't want him, if you're maybe Olag isn't that strong, you can just put him down here so he wails on Decimus instead of wailing on Olag. Now he's gonna start slapping the ground anyway, but he doesn't really stand a chance. There you can go. He's really taking tons of damage. We applied the burn. That really does the trick as well, thanks to Wrath and Arrogance. And down he goes. We've defeated the Golem.
Fastidious.
Fastidious.
How the heck are you, everybody? My name is Fastidious. Welcome to my channel and welcome to a guide. Today we're playing Watcher of Realms and we are going to be in Gear Raid number 2, stage 18. We have a tournament right now, or an Oracle's Trial, as they like to call it in this game, called Vault in the Sand. So you can see it over here, and this is specifically just, think of it as a Gear Raid 2 tournament. You guys are probably pretty familiar. You can see we're doing all right, but we've got a lot of grinding left to do. But first, let's get this video going. So I'm hoping this will be a very clear, comprehensive guide. I'm trying to make it as free-to-play accessible as possible. I mean, I am free-to-play. However, I am going to use one unit just because that's how it works for my account, who isn't so free to play. I just got lucky, and that is going to be Arrogance. So we can see this beautiful little devil over here. Everyone else is epic or lower. As you can see, we're actually bringing 3 rare champions into the fight. And then we have got, what is it? 5 epics. And then we've got the 1 legendary champion. That doesn't add up. 6 epics, excuse me, guys. So why am I bringing Arrogance? I could make it work with epic fighters and using 2 of them instead of my 1 Arrogance, but that would just me be bringing in Deimos, and I feel like it's a similar idea. He's also an incredibly rare and incredibly overpowered champion. You could bring in more normal fighters if you have them. I just don't. But if you have like a Voroth, or if you have like your Wrath, obviously would work really well. We're bringing him just as a backup. We won't really use him though. Scorch could work. However, I do think when I show you the strategy, if you have Arrogance, Valkyra, or Zealatu, I think that's the best way to go. Because basically they can do the job of what 2 fighters could do, and it allows you just to focus on the kind of choreography and the special sequencing that goes into this fight. So right before we hop in, I want to highlight a couple things, namely the tanks we're bringing to this fight and the healers. This fight, I'll probably just flash this on the screen as I say it, but you really need 2 strong defenders and you need 2 strong healers. So what do I mean by strong? Strong doesn't mean you need to have Baron and Olag, even though basically all of us will have Olag now from the Void Rift. What I mean is they need to be built out. So when I say built out, let's just click on my Baron. He's not insane. He's 37,000 BP, almost 38,000. He's not like this broken build of a unit, right? But he's skilled up, he's strong, he's level 60, 6 stars, and 6 full stars of promotion. You can do this with 5-star defenders. However, especially if you don't have amazing DPS, so not even you don't have an Arrogance, but you don't even have like even better stuff than that. I mean, we could probably still crank through it, but just you're gonna need 6-star defenders when you're ready to do this, 6-star tanks. There's no reason not to bring in some powerful built-up units. Again, Olag, amazing choice. A lot of us will have him. You could also bring in, you could bring in Livian. You could bring in Isolde. Isolde would be amazing for this fight. She's an amazing Lord. As you guys can see here, actually, we're bringing the rare Lord, Dagna, who we're not even gonna deploy. She's there just for her Lord bonus. Of course, Isolde is even better. But I would highly suggest, yes, is there a way to squeeze through it with amazing healing, amazing DPS, and not build up your tanks? Absolutely. I suggest probably just do it. At the very least, do 1. So we're gonna have like your left side tank is gonna be your super strong one, as you will see, and you can put your second tank on the right. Fortunately, we have 2 good tanks, so we'll rock with that. I could bring Regulus, who's only 5 stars, or something like that, but let's stick to what we have here, okay? Because I really do suggest you build them out, and that exact same thing goes for your healers. So you need 2 strong healers. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, there's a bit of a caveat here. If they are HP based, well, first off, bring them to 6 stars. You need 2 6-star healers here, I think, unless your main healer, your best healer, is extremely powerful. And if that's the case, you might not need a guide, right? But for example, I've done many takeovers for Gear Raid 2, probably 4 or 5 already behind the scenes. And the big thing I'll always say is they usually have a Vortex or an Eloin or something. But then I'm like, just 6-star Midan too, or just 6-star this person. Because it just, you need to lean on at least 2 healers. You can crank through it with like 3 or 4 healers. I know people that do that too, where maybe some of them are 5 stars. I'd rather just have 2 good ones, 2 6-star ones, and then this strategy is going to work beautifully. I will also say, if you see here, we are using Midan and we are using Vortex. They are very, very, very strong for this fight because they are HP base. When the boss does his big slam, the earthquake on the ground, he takes off a lot of HP of your champions. Your attack-based champions almost certainly won't have the same HP stats built on them that someone like your HP-based healers will. So your attack-based healers, you know, you're inclined to build attack on them. Where here you can see we're trying to pump as much HP into Vortex as possible. He's an HP-based healer. That being said, you can look here, terrible HP pool, like really no good. If we look at Lightlock, it's really not that different. So it's not that hard as long as you can get some good healing effect, or they're very well built. You can still get a touch of tankiness on these attack-based healers and make them work, but you got to make sure you're not neglecting the stat that's actually going to lead to them healing, in this case attack. So yeah, it's a harder thing to do to build your attack-based healers. That being said, if you have amazing ones, like amazing for this fight would be like Hollow or Eloin. Those are attack-based healers that'd be super strong here. They're also amazing choices. For me, I have Vortex, I have Midan, they're HP-based, they're much easier to build. It's pretty straightforward. So that's what I'm doing. You can see here, no crazy builds here, but you know, we get a touch of healing effect, a touch of regen, a touch of attack speed, and that all makes the world go round. So without further ado, we can finally get into the fight. Actually, the last thing I want to point towards, you're probably going to need a Decimus. I actually don't need him, but I'm going to bring him into the fight just to demonstrate, and especially if your defenders, your tanks are not super duper tanky. And especially if you're going for like one of those 5-star tank builds and you're not listening to my advice, Decimus is a must, so I will demonstrate how to use him. And then our final 3 people up here, our main DPS is going to be Arrogance. You'll see how I use him in a second. And finally, we just save Autumn and Imani for the end, just to nuke down the boss, because you are going to need some good single target damage. So that's going to be Imani, and then Autumn's just going to buffer, and it's going to be great. So without further ado, let's hop into the fight. I'll start this bad boy off at 1x. We're going to keep it nice and simple. So let's click here. The very first thing I want to do is place my first tank. So this should be your best tank. So for me, that's gonna be my boy Baron. Olog would be just as good. You know what? Let's restart this because all of you probably have Olog. Let's just do it with Olog. My Olog's good enough. So place your Olog or whoever your best tank is, and we're gonna wait, we're gonna wait, we're gonna wait. Now immediately, this is the way I like to do it, guys. Your tank needs to be good enough to take a hit. That's my strategy here. I'm gonna place Midan and let her start loading up that ult. So you can see Olog, he's great for this. He's like, the timing works out really well in this fight that he already can use his passive and self-shield or his auto move, whatever. So he took that hit like no one's business. And now we can get ready here with our boy Decimus. So I'm gonna wait, and the way I do my strategy, it's important that you already drop him before he's in the square you're gonna drop him in, because this way he stays in front. Now I can quickly pick him up and he's gonna slam into Olog and kill himself. Because it takes the first hit, they knock half their HP. The second hit, they knock half HP. Because Olog is so good at being tanky, he's getting heals from Midan. Put this back on 1x, and he's shielding himself. He can take the hit from this guy. The other guy hits Decimus, and when the other guy comes down, excuse me, let me pause it 1 second. When the other guy comes down, he hits into Olog, applies damage to Olog, which doesn't really hurt him at all because of his shield, and then that guy dies. So now Olog's only taken on 1 enemy. If it was 2, this wouldn't work. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna quickly trigger Midan's ultimate. So this does some AoE healing, increasing her healing multiplier, and increases some defense of our allies. And as you can see here, we're able to tank that without having to use Vortex's ultimate. And that's super important because we really need to make sure we can time out Vortex's ultimate as well as possible for the second and third big slams. This is actually a great moment since we're all set up now. Let's pause the fight and let's head into the monster manual. So we've got the giant primitive golem. He's the nasty boss here, and he's really just got 2 moves. One is like kind of a passive. It's like a, think of it as like an arena effect, an aura, an ongoing damage over time thing. He's just summoned a sandstorm, and that's going to deal continuous damage to all targets equal to a percentage of that target. So your allies target your max HP. The real move he does is he does it 3 times. He's going to do some major, huge physical damage by slamming the ground, and that's going to hit everybody, right? He's going to do 3 rounds of it, and each round he hits it 3 times. So as you saw, he just did 3 times there. The reason I didn't use, well, first off, we deployed Vortex later because we didn't need to, because I knew we wouldn't need his ultimate. And the reason I set it up that way is because we want to be fully charged for his second ultimate, and then we can perfectly time his third ultimate, because the only way to get him set up on the ultimate for the first round of slams, the second round of slams, and the third round is with like a lot of good timing, a lot of decent attack speed, and some significant rage regen. For 18, I used to do it this way, and I could get away with like the high 20s to low 30s% rage regeneration. I haven't been able to work on 18 without like over 40% rage regen, and that's a pretty high stat demand for a build, because you're gonna need a lot of HP on him, you're gonna need a lot of attack speed, you're gonna need some significant healing effect to then get like over 40% rage regen. Pretty hard. And keep in mind, that's 40% rage regen, not counting what I have in my Pantheon. So I opt for this strategy. Make sure your first tank is actually tanky. Use Decimus to ease the load, and get Midan out as soon as possible so she's ready with her ultimate to get some bigger heals and get the increased defense. That all being said, let's head back on into the fight. So we're getting all set up now. I'm gonna drop the main DPS. So that is going to be Arrogance. So Arrogance, the way I called out Valkyra and Zila 2, Arrogance is my choice because he's the only one I have. And I know those are 3 legendary champions, but those are 3 champions you could have gotten in your first 20, 30, 40, 50 days. I think a lot of people will have them, so I think this still will help. If you didn't, you could put 1 fighter here, 1 fighter here, but you see the benefit of Arrogance is he's got some great range here, being able to hit this square and this square. The squares up here, namely this one, are helpful, but it's really, he can just be taking care of providing some DPS to both lanes. So we got the Olog lane and what is about to become the Baron lane. So he's dropped there. You see he's gonna take this guy out like it's no one's business. And now we can drop tank number 2. So fortunately for me, my tank number 2 is Baron. I will say the first time I did this, a couple weeks ago, I've been on the stage for a while now. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago, I don't know. 2.5? I don't know. I did use a 5-star Olog. So if you have a very strong tank, you can do it. But like I said, the sure way to do it is just get 2 6-star tanks. You're gonna need them eventually anyway. So now we're all set up. And basically, this is our team. Like I said, Autumn and Imani, they're super duper squishy. That we're basically just going to use them at the end to nuke down the boss, as you're going to see. Because after he's done his 3rd round of Earthquakes, he'll be the only enemy left, and he'll start marching down, and then you can have your single target set up. So you'll see that. Then we've got Decimus, who's going to go in and out. And then the only other people, Dagna, we're not going to use her. We don't need to. She's not built. And we can put Wrath down for a little extra damage, which I probably will do, but we certainly don't need to. So we're going to go. So basically I'm gonna do here with these 2 guys exactly what I did last time. I let the first guys hit, and then here Olog being my good defender, and now we have our 2 healers out, he can tank the second guy as well. We've also got some DPS to lighten the load and kill those guys. But this guy, I'm gonna let Baron tank 1, and then my Baron could tank the second one, but I'm just gonna demonstrate what you guys might wanna do. Now you can get ready. This other guy's coming down here, and I'm gonna get ready with my Decimus. So if you don't understand Decimus, I'll break down his kit after this video, but essentially he's got like an undying passive. So he is just kind of like a warm body that can absorb hits and do cool things like this. But you can just place him there. We'll just pick him up right away. He's gonna crash into Baron. And you can see that guy dies, and now Arrogance takes care of the other one. Arrogance is really good for this fight. So immediately trigger Vortex. I actually probably waited slightly too long, but as long as you do it before it reaches towards the very end of him about to do, so this is the countdown until he does his Earthshake, the big Earthquake move. As long as you don't do it somewhere towards the beginning or the middle, or like where we are now, we should be fine to have it lined up timing-wise for the start of the 3rd one. Otherwise, if you waited till here or until you already started, it might be too late. It really depends on your specific build. But I found as long as you get it in this like 25% to 75 or even full % range on the countdown, you should be pretty good. You can also trigger Olog. We don't need to, but it couldn't hurt. I'll let him do 1 hit. And then on his 2nd hit, I can get ready to drop Wrath. He'll just help out with the end of the battle. If your Wrath is really tanky, which mine probably could have done it, you can already put him down earlier, but I just want to make sure he wouldn't die. You can see I also didn't trigger Midan. If you're finding your guys are dying, you can do it. I like to just make sure she's fully saved up for the end, and this kind of saves me the headache. So let's continue. You can see now it's the little spaces in between, like with the new enemies coming out, are so useful because like your 2 healers can really heal everyone up really nicely. So here comes the last round of roly-poly-olies. Here's wave 1 of them, and now wave 2 is about to come. As we did before, we let them hit once. I'm gonna keep on the 1x just so we can really nail the sequencing here. And now here comes the next one. Once this guy gets here into this square, now I'm gonna drop Decimus. That should give him enough time. He just needs to take the 1 hit and I can pick him up right again. I will say we've got plenty costs right now, so there's no reason to pick him up. So I'll probably just leave him there and let him die because his job in the battle's done and we don't need to pick him back up to regain extra costs. So pretty good. See, Olog took that like a champ. Now that guy will die whenever Decimus dies. These 2 guys will roll down into Baron. And now it's just a waiting game. So down goes Decimus. You can see the one guy rolled into Baron. Now this guy, Arrogance, takes care of him. And here we go, guys. This is where it gets tricky. Exactly enough time there to trigger and trigger. So now we'll definitely be able to tank this out. And what I like to do, that's his first one, his first match. Here's his second one. Now we can set up Imani. Actually, excuse me. Let's set him to get started on the third. Now we can pick up Midan and put down Autumn so she can charge up her ult to line up with Imani. That's what I like to do. Okay, we can pick up Baron because we don't need him, or you can leave him down. It doesn't matter. And now we can put down Imani. You can see Autumn's already charging up. Of course, we'll break down all these characters' skills quickly at the end in case you're unfamiliar with Autumn. But if you've watched any of my content, I'm sure you're very familiar with Autumn. She's my absolute queen. And you can see we got full health on everybody. He's going to just about to start to go down. I could already trigger Imani, but we're waiting for Autumn to give the great bonus. You can throw this on 2x now. Okay, actually, I'm gonna put it on 1x because this is gonna happen really fast, guys. Once Imani and Arrogance and Wrath start going, you're gonna see this health bar just melt away. What you can actually do, guys, with Decimus, if you're having trouble and you don't want him, if you're maybe Olag isn't that strong, you can just put him down here so he wails on Decimus instead of wailing on Olag. Now he's gonna start slapping the ground anyway, but he doesn't really stand a chance. There you can go. He's really taking tons of damage. We applied the burn. That really does the trick as well, thanks to Wrath and Arrogance. And down he goes. We've defeated the Golem. So I know there was a lot going on there. I will put chapters in the video to try to make it as clear as possible. But I hope it made good sense. And to recap, let me just pull up the map really fast before we go into every hero's stats and builds. Let me just show you on the map. So yes, we did use Arrogance, and I apologize, I guess, for using a very strong hero. But if we go to the map where we had Wrath here, if our Wrath was nice and strong and tanky, which ours actually was, and we had another one, like I could have put Deimos here with Arrogance, that would have worked great. The only difference would be I'd have to make sure I deployed Wrath sooner, and maybe I'd have to be a little more cognizant of timing out Midan's heals along with Vortex's. You saw I got a little cocky there or whatever, knowing I could survive it with just Vortex, and then I saved Midan just so I knew it would be perfect at the end. So everyone's roster is going to be slightly different, unless you have the exact same champions as me. So tinker with it as you will, but like I said, I really do like this strategy of just having the two great tanks, the two great healers here, and then just I like to point mid on this way or whoever you use, so we're getting double healing as well on this square. And I like to do I also, why do I put it on the right? So they're taking care of more of the mobs facing your worst defender, even though both of mine are good. You know, especially if you have like a 5-star defender, you should really have your best guy here, so he's covering both of them but really prioritizing here. But yeah, like I said, like Valkyra, someone with a nice big range, or of course Zila 2 would be really good, and I've actually used both of them to great success during takeovers on other accounts as well. But on my account, I only have Arrogance. So let's head out of there. Let's look at the champions we were working with. I think I'll go class by class. I'll try to go pretty quickly because I don't want this guide to go too long. If I don't cover anything, you have extra questions, please let me know in the comments section. But without further ado, let's start with our healers because they make this whole thing work. So the way I like to build healers are tough, and that's why I really prefer HP-based healers, because you don't have to think about tankiness, since the HP stat is going to give them that tankiness while also supporting their healing. But there's a lot of stats you have to consider. Like, I don't know if I'd say it's more than other champions, but they're definitely different stats that you have to be cognizant of. So you need a healthy amount of whatever the base stat they're going to use for the healing is. So here we're using HP-based healers. So there's your HP. Like I said, if you use an attack-based healer, you have to pay attention to attack, but also for this stage, you do need a healthy amount of HP as well, or else they're just going to die, and then they won't be healing anyone. But then I would say you definitely want a decent amount of attack speed. So here we've got 173 bonus. That's a lot. I believe Vortex is a 3-second interval champion. So you see, I pushed that so I can get a full like 1.1 second decrease here. So he's only at a 1.9 second interval. You could definitely get away with just like 110 attack speed, I'd say. Somewhere in that 110 to 130 range is probably a sweet spot. I can link in the description the threshold numbers and statistics that you need for each attack interval type of champion provided by Mindless. So shout out to Mindless. But yeah, pretty good. And then you can see some nice chunk of healing effect. 74 is a lot. Our Vortex is pretty strong. As long as it's like 40 or more, I think you'd be okay. Again, here, I actually do have a healthy amount of rage regen on my Vortex, but that's why I used him in the different way, because I didn't want to show him off, but he is pretty good. But yeah, I would say you'd want your rage regen at least at 20%, unless your attack speed is very high like this. You see, we've got both. A very high healing effect is nice, but I'd say 40 plus is okay. And then just push that base stat as well as you can. And I'd say if they're going to be one of your best healers, skill them up. All these champions are way better skilled up. I will also say my Vortex is Awakened 2, which certainly helps. His Awakened 2, even though it's just stats, getting extra base stats to his HP is really good, because Vortex has a very bad HP pool. However, back when I did this the first times, he was not awakened at all, and I did not have this gear, and it still worked. So even if this build probably is a little overpowered for this right now, but that's because I'm working on getting to stage 19. But you can do a lesser build, just experiment and see what works for you. Midan is more in line with that. Midan doesn't have nearly the gear that my Vortex does. However, you can see I prioritize in a similar way. So actually I'm not at that 40 healing effect, but I kind of make up for it with a bit of rage regen here at 37. Again, a pretty healthy attack. This is more realistic, so this is at like 185. If I really wanted to min-max her, let's see what her attack interval is. We're at 3 seconds again, so I think getting her to like this plus 110 to plus 120 or 130 range would be stronger. However, she was like my second defender, so her build isn't as vital as long as it's good enough to support, not defender, healer, as long as it's good enough to support our primary healer, so in this case, Vortex. Vortex, I'll also say, is really good for this because he also puts up shields, and shields are very strong in this fight. So like when I shouted out Isolde earlier, that's why she's so good, right? Because she's giving shields to your champions. Or that's why Baron and Olag, like we're going to discuss, are so good because they shield themselves as well. There you can just take a peek. Again, not so much HP, very low base HP on these HP-based healers. It's annoying. Okay, not great attack speed, solid healing effects, solid rage regen, and those are kind of the things you want to hit on your healers. I can do a whole gearing guide on healers if people are interested, but that's the basics. So now let's just go into our mages. It's just going to be Imani. I did put Imani in really good gear. I should have showed you the stats. You know what? I'll run it again after this, and I'll throw up a picture of the stats right now so you can see. So she does help a lot nuke down the boss, but she really just speeds it up and makes the fight, assures you that you can take down the boss in the right amount of time. You could get away with a much worse build than this. I just figured I'd show her off because I love Imani. We'll just click here to show it. What do we got? Where is it? Oh my God. So yeah, here you go. Attack interval, we got it down to 1.8. She had a healthy amount of attack speed up to 246. Crit rate is looking very good at 92.5, and crit damage is also looking very strong at 245. Attack is okay at 13,000. Very good for Imani, I would say, but she's helped out by a nice artifact as well. I've got a plus 10 mythic IX Rage here. So it's a very strong build on Imani. However, if you have someone like Nocturne or some other legendary champions, or even an AoE mage, they would be just as good, if not better. I just wanted to show someone who's not the strongest champion in the world, but one I really like. But like Nocturne is who I use normally. I just used Imani here to use less legendaries and to highlight. He totally works. You can throw in the famous Mob Bucket artifact, the Ancestral Teachings, and a build like this works beautifully. I mean, he's so easy to use because you don't need any crit at all, especially because you can just keep trying the stage over and over. Someone like Nocturne is amazingly good because you just got to wait for that real damage to hit, and then you'll just see all of a sudden the box's health meter goes like this. Because it's whenever it hits, and yeah, it might be a 15 or 18 or 20% chance, depending on how skilled up he is, but it's gonna hit sometimes. So you can just keep running it over and over, and you'll get lucky one time and you will destroy that boss. So Nocturne is exceptionally good for this fight. Moving on, we didn't use any marksman. Quickly, we can do our fighters, and then the tanks are probably the most important part we haven't addressed yet. So my arrogance isn't quite a solid build. You see 63,000 BP. You can get away with way less than that. Even like high 40s is probably fine. You want a healthy amount of attack speed. I don't even have that much on him right now because I moved some gear around to make him not as strong. Big amount of attack. What I like about these fighters, especially the legendary fighters, is they have huge attack pools, so they're really easy to build up to surpass those defense thresholds you have to exceed. You can see crit rate's pretty good, crit damage is quite good. Rage regen doesn't really matter on him, but you can see if you really wanted a better arrogance, you definitely, I think he's a 2.6 attack interval champion, 2.4. Okay, so you probably want him at like 230 total, so like 130 bonus, and then he'd be cruising 120, 130. He'd be really good. Again, you can refer to Mindless's link in the description. The only other one we used was Wrath. Wrath is great for this because we all get him for free, and he's got exceptionally high base stats, especially for an epic. So you can see super high base attack for an epic and very healthy HP. Let's actually see. His HP is significantly higher than arrogance, so you could build him. I think I have him in all attack right now, but you could totally throw an HP piece on here since he's not your main damage dealer unless you kind of need him to be, and then it will kind of assure that he tanks out those smashes from the primitive golem. Okay, so those are our guys, and I'll quickly point out, as I should have before, no one that I'm using, literally no one is in a full set of accessories. Almost all of them are going to be in a full set of weapon and breastplate, but when it comes to accessories, stats over sets, at least if you're early in the game like we are right now. Finally, our tanks. So our most important tank, Dagna, useless, right? We didn't use her at all, but she's really good because she helps buff that whole faction, and we did use a lot of Northern Throne faction heroes. However, we got our two big tanks. They're both in pretty good builds. Again, broken sets here, and then I got one for some health, broken set excuse me, broken set here, and I went for some health. They're in very similar builds. Essentially what I'm going for is just HP and then some defense. So you can see they've got nice, big, tanky HP and defense base stat pools, and we're just drawing off of that. So we're over, what is this, 70, almost getting towards 78,000 HP here. Pretty close here as well, getting towards 80,000. You can do it with less, but I'd say you'd want to be over 70,000 if you want to rock this like 2-tank build. But like I said, this is my strategy. 2 strong tanks, 2 strong healers, and I've explained in detail what that means. And I think getting over 5,000 defense seems to be very strong. It works out for me. If you want to push anything else, they're not getting whacked so much, so you don't really need rage regen on them, because like, it's not like they're going to get attacked so much that you'll keep regenerating. And we don't care about their attacks, so you can kind of just totally ignore those stats. You can just honestly just pump the HP and pump the defense as high as possible. Make sure they're 6 stars, and make sure you skill them up if they need skill ups, which these two I think really benefit from. And then you're golden, you're cruising, you're good. So guys, some alternate people. We'll just go class by class, and that's how we can wrap it up. So for fighters, here we go. Rose there already. Like I said, I think Zilu2 is amazing. You can see she's got the extended range that really helps. And then also, where's Valkyra? Where are you, Valkyra? Again, a very exceptional extended range, so you can hit both squares. Super useful. It's really the strategy I suggest. That's why I use it. Otherwise, you could just bring very strong fighters. Abomination could work. He's got exceptionally high base attack. Salazar's would obviously be unbelievable. He might be the best fighter in the game. Just straight out and out fighter. Maybe Arrogance is a bit better in terms of overall, what's the word? Adaptability. In terms of other legendaries, someone like Lugaru is amazing. However, because he takes so much damage because of being a chaotic faction member, probably not as strong as just bringing like an Abomination or something. Very straightforward. I probably wouldn't bring Aspen into the fight. In terms of epics, you need a lot of DPS to make it work if you're going to do the 2-fighter strategy. None of them have the extended range. Like you can see Scorch or like Ein have 2 tiles, but you really need 3, so they're not really going to cut it. I would say Wrath is an amazing choice, as you guys saw. I would also say Deimos is an exceptionally good choice wherever he's hiding out. Voroth would also be a good choice who could totally do it. And I suspect Jankar might be able to do it with some of his dot damage. I just haven't tested him out before. So moving on to the other things. So defenders, any defender will work. Could they be an amazing defender like Baron or Olag? Absolutely. I mean, a lot of us are going to have Olag now. However, as long as you build the stats on them, it will work. Like, especially if you're pairing them with like a Vortex to provide shields. So like Livian, I used her. I've tried her in the right slot on many accounts when I've worked on it. She works fine. If you have a 6-star Livian, she will work amazing. Regulus, I've used at 5 stars. He works. 6 stars will work even better. Who else? I could see, I've never used her, but Meryl could work because she might even provide you a little extra healing. I think a well-built Meryl would be exceptionally good for this fight. Who else? Aveline would be amazing. She's got the big block, a lot of special stuff in her kit, and she's a Northerner, so you can benefit from if you bring a Dagna or a Solda, or if you're really lucky, King Hars. Speaking of which, Legendary Lord, but yeah, he'd be perfect for this fight. Basically, all these guys, I've used Tordor before, he works. Defenders just work. As long as you build them, they'll work. Like, you can try to go for these budget builds, but you can just put some decent gear on them and just actually bring them to 6 stars, then it's good. It doesn't have to be good gear as long as they're 6 stars. So just pick ones you're willing to invest into. I've used Ardith before too. Pretty good. There are better options, but he's still worked as well. So just kind of proving my point, everyone works. If you, for some reason, 6-starred Rex, freaking Rex would work, I promise. It's pretty straightforward as long as you're hitting the stat marks. You don't really need any marksman at all. The only marksman I guess I'll shout out is like Hatsit's just so good, she'd probably just melt all the waves anyway. It doesn't really matter, so you could bring her. If you have Hatsit, you probably don't need help with anything. Setram and Silas would be really good, taking Imani's role just for some single target nuking on the boss. They'd both be amazing. I mean, Setram they'd both be amazing. They'd make it a cakewalk as well, like as good as Nocturne probably. I think that's all I want to really shout out here. Someone like Nyx, I would say ignore. We don't need AoE damage for this. Yeah, don't need it. Now let's just go to mages and we'll finish up with healers. So with mages, I think Nocturne maybe is the best for this. Any good AoE mage could also do it. Like if you have already a 6-star well-built Comet or something, of course he will work. Of course Virna will work. Shamir probably won't work. Zealous could totally work because they're all ground units and he's gotten buffed lately, but I would go single target. So I would go for like a Nocturne. If we're looking at epics, I think obviously saw Imani works. Nabras would work really well because he's got a touch of AoE and a touch of burst. Greed obviously work because he's good at everything. That's kind of about it. Azoth would work too. Azoth would work well. Pyros could work. Pyros could work really well, especially if you paired him with like another Infernal at the end. Like the way I do it on my account, just to really nuke him down at the end, is I bring Imani alongside Nocturne and the guy disappears in like 2 seconds. That works really well. But yeah, single target over AoE, but if it's really good AoE like an Iona, like a Comet, a Virna, of course you have Morgan or something, of course it's gonna work as well. Finally, with healers, I really prefer HP-based healers, and I can't really continue this without talking about who the best in the entire game is for this stage, for Gear Raid 2, and that's gonna be Sadie. I just don't have her. She's probably on par with Vortex and Imani in terms of just straight up healing, but she's just so good because of her talents and her ultimate for this fight. So you get physical damage reduction 15% and magic damage reduction 15% for all allies in range. She's got that interesting kind of cross symbol diagonal range, diamondal. Not diagonal, like a diamond shaped thing. So she can fit a lot of people in there, especially if you put her on like that top tile. She works really well. Insanely well. Like whenever people have asked me for help and they have Sadie, I'm like, yeah, just give me like 45 minutes. We got this. Because Sadie's crazy. Combine that with her ultimate. During the ultimate, allies take only 50% of incoming damage. That's so crazy because her ultimate basically is going to last about as long as his smashes. And then by the time this happens and they start losing the remaining HP over 8 seconds, which you can get up to 12 seconds, her and then your other healer or other healers can just heal those people back up. So it completely mitigates half the damage essentially. She's super good. I'm not going to break down her whole kit, but she's just tremendous. Oh, that reminds me, Autumn. I said I was going to explain Autumn and Decimus. Well, let me quickly shout out a few more people. So like I said, HP is the best, but if you are going to go attack, like Elwyn's great. Legendaries are probably better if you're going to use an attack-based healer just because they're going to have better base stats, as you can see here. So she's up close to 12,000. So that's even better than like the base HP of Midan or of Vortex, and certainly better than like Lightlock. I would say support healers like Dolores, you can bring them in as a third healer, but likely if you use a Dolores, you'll use her the way we used Autumn, just to help burst at the end. Ezreal actually would be really good for this fight since he can't, he can't take more than 60% of max HP as damage. So Ezreal probably is really good for this fight too. Yeah, I think that basically was it. And I said Hollow. Hollow is really good. Really strong for this fight, and she's got a great range just like Vortex. So the two rares that I said I was going to talk about were already here, so we'll talk about Autumn. Autumn's very simple, and guys, if you're going to use a rare champion, I say this in all my videos, just max their skills. Like, you very quickly get to the point, I would show you guys it now, but it'd be wasting time, where you have so many rare skill crystals, so much rare skill dust, and you're going to do nothing with it. So just, if there's any chance you're going to use a rare champion, just max skill them up. So here we got Autumn, crit damage increase 30%. This goes up to 60% like it's nothing with a couple rare skill ups, and then whenever that ultimate's active doing that crit damage increase, you can also get a crit rate increase, which starts at 10%, scale that thing up to 30%. It's super powerful. So you saw, like, we could have built our Imani with only 70% instead of like the 92.5 she was at. Autumn's amazing. I use her in almost every piece of content in this game, even though she's a rare champion. And finally, let's go back up to our fighters. There's Decimus, very famous for Gear Raid 2 specifically. What's so cool about Decimus, it's his passive right here. You need this skilled up. It starts at 6 seconds, you can get up to 8 seconds, but basically when his HP drops to 0, so like he would have died, he stays alive for that 6, or when you skilled up, 8 seconds. In this time, his attack increases, you don't care. He's literally just a body bag. He's a meat sack. If you can get him to like level 40, like it's very easy. I do that, and then I put a lot of flat stat stuffs on him, so he can even take 1 or 2 hits before he goes to 0. I think it helps a lot, but you don't need to do it. You can just totally take advantage of cheesing this passive. Guys, I really hope this was helpful. Like I said, I've been fastidious. If you have any suggestions for guides like this in the future, let me know. If you love it, let me know, because guides are maybe my favorite thing to make in this game. So I want to help you guys, so feedback helps. That being said, like the video if you want to like it, comment if you want to comment, share it with your mom if you think she'd appreciate it. I'll see you in the next one.
Fastidious.